This is the Hofstra Radio Alumni Audio Yearbook. Today is February 27th, 2025. Please tell us your name and the years you were at Hofstra Radio.
Hi, hello everybody. My name is Mabeza. Um, I was at RHU from 2018 to 2022. A lot of exciting stuff, and I'm happy to be on the program.
Great. Thank you so much for doing this. What shows or programs did you work on at the station?
Oh, man, I did a lot. I when I started off at RHU, I did off the charts, um, one of more of the basic music shows that you usually get on when you first get cleared. After that, I jumped into the morning wake up call, uh, became a producer for the Hip Hop Basement, and then jumped over and did a lot of sports stuff, doing the Islanders games, doing the basketball games, volleyball games. And then eventually, somehow, I don't know how they did it, but I became the music director for the station in 2021.
Wow, very cool. Did you have any other titles or positions at the station, or was it music director in those producer jobs?
It was a couple things. I was kind of jumping around from place to place. I didn't really know what exactly my place was at the station at first. So for the morning wake up call, I was at first a traffic and weather person.
Hmm.
Then I became a producer, a host, entering the board like everyone does, and that's where I built my confidence from there. Then we went on to do music shows. We go after I get audio cleared. We go to off the charts and I started doing like my own program, writing scripts and all that stuff too. Um, but yeah, I did a lot at the station. I can't get it off the top of my head, but
Yeah, no, that's definitely a wide variety of things, and it seems like you were involved in a number of different departments, which I'm sure we'll get to at some point. Before we go further, did you have any nicknames or on-air personas at the station?
yeah, I did. Every single morning show, every single music show, I already started off. What's going on, Long Island? It's DJ Eddie B, and we're here for a great time.
Nice, nice. That's fun. Was that something that you had in mind before you came to the station, or is that how did that come up? The nickname.
So I kind of came up with the nickname myself when I was a kid. I used to do youth basketball in the Baldwin Hempstead Uniondale area. There was PAL, the
Hmm.
Police Activity League for kids. And during one of my years, my coach called me, "Hey, it's Eddie B. What's going on, man?" During the start of one of the seasons. So that name kind of stuck with me because first name Edward, shortened Eddie, and then the Americanized way of how to say my last name is Mabeza, so that brought in the B, so Eddie B, and
Ah,
that sounded DJ-ish, so came in.
very cool. Very cool. I like to hear it. Um, I don't want to forget to come back to this. When you said you first got on the air when you were getting started at the station, we'll come back to this, I'm sure. But you mentioned off the charts and some of the other programs that you normally do when you first start. And since we were there at different times, what were some of those sort of beginner shows that you were working on when you're first getting acclimated?
Yeah. So off the charts was the top 20 channel.
Hmm.
Um, the other one that was in the evenings, I can't believe I forgot the name, but everyone would fight for a spot to get it, and it
Mm.
was always exempted by the sports shows too.
Mm.
Um, Man, I can't get it off the top of my head, but I did that show, and then when I discovered that we had a hip hop channel, a hip hop time block, which is late at night, I got into that too.
Nice. Okay. All right. Well, we'll talk about that along the way. But I'd like to start off with a two-part question here, and feel free to answer this however it makes sense to you. But what was it that first brought you to the station? And then, if you could kind of describe it for those of us who weren't there, what did it look like? What did it smell like? Do you remember meeting anybody in particular when you first showed up WRHU?
Yeah, it's actually a funny story. So, before I even went to college, I was working at Panera Bread, and one of my coworkers I had like a really big crush on. She didn't go
Hmm.
to Hofstra, but she went to NCC, Nassau Community College, and she was part of the radio station there. So there was this one day where we're hanging out, and then her director said that she had to pre-record one of her shows. So then she asked if I can go with her. So I went with her. I sat for 2 hours of her doing her music show. I was like, wow, this is pretty cool. I wonder how I could do this. And then when I applied to Hofstra, I saw RHU was a club that I could join. I'm like, oh wow, this is perfect. It's all lining up. So I applied my freshman year, which is actually came in summer of 2017. Go in, apply, interview, um, and the personnel director at the time was Madison Wright, and I called her by the wrong name. I forgot what it was, but it started with an M. And that became kind of like a running joke during my
Mhm.
first year at RHU, where I called the personnel director by the wrong name, and then in the class, you'd be like, "Oh, you called me, da 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 da." I'm like, "Ah, ha, ha," So that would be like one of the icebreakers and whatnot.
Nice.
But walking to the station, going and seeing the board for the same time, all those pretty colors, light colors, and screens everywhere. Seeing the north and the south studio, um, at the time was being renovated. So there was the auxiliary studio, which is down in one of the corners. But it still amazed me at first because it's a lot of like tech, and I wasn't exactly used to like doing something like that. I would think like this is going to be more complicated than a keyboard, or as like a piano. What buttons do I press? What does this mean? What does that mean? And
Hmm.
then eventually I get into the class, and then I figure everything out from there.
Okay. So before that first time when you went down to the radio station with your friend, with your coworker, did you have an idea of what a radio station would look like, or a college radio station?
No, not at all. I had no idea what radio was going to be. I kind of imagine it like the old timey. You have like those analog like dials, and you have
Hmm.
the B tracks, D tracks. I forgot what the name is, and then like um the microphone, no screens, a big clock, and then there's somebody on the other side of the glass looking at you. But no, it was completely different. So when I walked into that station at NCC, it's a board and it's a computer, and I was amazed how simple it was. So yeah.
Yeah, I like the way that you described that all the lights and the colors and all the things that for a lot of us when we first show up at a radio station, we don't have expectations or know what it is. It's kind of overwhelming. It's kind of like, wow, this is really sound looks really difficult. But it seems like you had a different reaction, sort of like, oh, I can do this.
Yeah, it was very difficult at first, but then when you watch someone else do it, you kind of see like you pick up on what patterns they're doing. Like where do you put the pot, the dial for the volume? How do you play a song? Is little things that you pick up, and then that eventually that becomes second nature once you're doing a show by yourself, right?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So, okay, cool. What were you planning on studying when you got to Hofstra at first, and what did you stay with that, or did you change to radio or something else?
Yeah. I'm not sure if this is a little unique for the yearbook. So I graduated as a mechanical engineer.
Hmm.
There was a little stint in junior year where I almost switched to radio, but my parents had me lock in per se for mechanical engineering.
Hmm.
Um, One of my friends at the time when I first applied, he kind of made fun of me a little bit because I was labeled as a non-com, where you don't really see many non-communication majors working at a radio station.
Right. Yeah, there's a whole history. I've interviewed plenty of people who came in as accounting majors and computer science majors and pre-med and things like that, and they got involved in the radio station and changed their whole plans, or their academics went out the window. But it's good to hear that you stuck with it.
I commend all of my accomplishments and who I am as a person, my personality and my work ethic from RHU.
Mm.
Before, when I was in high school, I was, a little introverted, a little nerdy. Didn't really know how to talk to people, public speaking, how to even talk to myself. And then came to RHU, did the classes, doing the station, doing the shows. I learned how to build my self confidence, and that's how it became like a domino effect from there. From starting at RHU, I got my first internship, and then I got a job, and then I'm doing projects for like a whole bunch of other people. So RHU has been an extremely huge stepping stone for me, and I commend it like to the max. If it wasn't for RHU, I wouldn't be the person that I am today.
Wow. Wow, that's great to hear. And yeah, I mean, the station and John Mullen and Kathleen and all the wonderful people that work at the station do such a great job of preparing people for not only careers in radio, but just for being, professionals and having a sense of how to communicate and present themselves and really prepare them for the world outside of university. So it sounds like they did a great job in preparing you for, whatever possibilities lay ahead.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So let's go back to the training class. So you go in, you interview, and they say, "Come on in. You're going to do the training class." Did you have any idea what the level of work would be for the training class, and what do you remember learning in that class?
Yeah. So in undergrad, being a kid going to school, a big college for the first time, um, I wasn't the best student. I'll be honest.
Mm,
Um, and doing the training class, it kind of like shaped how I would see my college classes after that. So the way that the structure of the training class was built was kind of like a very like in-depth classroom, and there was training material on the manual and mentors for everything into that too. So it it helped me kind of like shape everything. You know what I mean?
hmm Yeah, I mean, a lot of people say that the once a week, and I don't remember if it's an hour or 2 hours, is as challenging as any regular, paid course that you're taking. That it requires a lot of concentration and a lot of work, and it sets the bar pretty high. Does that seem fair to you that it set a high standard?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because one of the things that Bruce Avery put onto me was that this is, even though this is what he likes to call sandbox radio, college radio, anything under the 93
Mm-hmm.
hertz on the FM dial, even though it's sandbox radio, that ethic still has to be there because your message is being played out to whoever is listening. So if you want to be known as a goofball over the air and you're going to have people talking on like Twitter or Facebook saying, what are these college kids talking about? Or you can form yourself as a professional, or when you go on into, you graduate from college into the professional world, you have that demeanor with you. So
Hmm.
huge forming.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Do you remember your first impressions of Bruce? Was he intimidating? Was he welcoming? Was it a little bit of both?
Oh yeah, I mean Bruce, God bless his soul. I miss him sometimes. He starts it off as like kind of like don't mess with the boss type thing, but also he's yet has a little softness on the side to him.
Mm-hmm.
He has this joke where he like if you're ever doing like you're doing a show at midnight, don't call him unless the transmitter fell off the tower or something.
Yeah, I mean, it's. I think he tried to impress upon freshmen or new recruits that this is serious business, but also it's an opportunity to learn and to grow and to try some things out. And it sounds like you took to that right away. Is that fair?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And Bruce called me out too. I try to like put myself out there, and when we were all doing icebreakers, I'm like, oh yeah, I did college radio before I hung out at NCC.
Uh huh.
And he was like, oh yeah, do you know the director Sean Novak? I'm like, oh, who's that? So yeah.
That's Sean's a Hofstra Radio Hall of Famer, as I'm sure you know by now. But yeah, that's funny that you were showing off a little bit, and Bruce called you on it. But I'm sure it was in a friendly and loving way, and hopefully it brought you a little closer into the group. But I want to go to the next step. You get through the training class, you pass all the tests and the things like that, and you get on the air for the first time. Do you remember getting behind the mic or behind the board the first time, and what were you thinking or what were you feeling?
Oh my God, wow. I was so scared when I got behind the mic for the first time. Um, I was sweating bullets. I had every single screen. I had a laptop in front of me. I had the computer that's next to the board in front of me. I had my script ready, and then I'm waiting for the song to end. And then some songs have an outro. The song that I picked didn't have an outro, so
Uh-huh.
then it's dead air for like 3 seconds, and I'm like frozen. Like, what do I say? What do I say? And I just ramble on about something, and then next thing like those tour groups that come in during the day and they show off RHU. There's
Uh-huh.
me in the studio, I'm frozen, and then there's a tour group just walking by. Oh man, I mean that's like the perfect like beginner experience for college radio, right? Just that just had to be you.
Wow, wow. I'm sure you were sweating and feeling pretty nervous, but you got through it and you kept going, right? Is that did you manage to wave to the tour group as they went by, or you just were minding the board and not paying attention to them?
I was trying to like look at them too. I try to say myself. I was like, and you're listening to RHU, click, and then the song plays, and I'm like, I turn off the mic. Actually, no, I didn't turn off the mic was still hot, but I didn't realize it. So I'm waving to them, and then in the corner of my eye, the light is red. I'm like, what does that mean? And I stare at it for like 2 more seconds. I'm like, oh, I'm still on the air. Turn off, and I just embarrassed myself in front of everybody.
No, well, I'm sure they didn't know the difference at all, but that'll stick with you forever. You'll be telling that story forever, I'm sure. So you get through that. Was there a period of time or an incident where you started to feel comfortable behind the mic, where you thought, okay, I know what I'm doing. I feel comfortable with this.
Yes, absolutely. So I was doing morning show on Fridays with Amanda Romeo and Max Sacco. We were like the three like trio. Um, and working with them, Amanda being at the station for a little longer than Max and I, and Max being my closest friend at the time, he helped me build my confidence over the air.
Hmm.
And that's when, once we did the show together, we did it a couple of times. I learned how to build like the rundown. You know what topics you're going to talk about, how you're going to talk about the topics, what you're going to debate about, what extent you're going to debate about, how to throw to another person, how to how to line something else up, how to line up a joke, how to think on the fly, stuff like that.
Hmm.
So it was really doing the morning show is what helped me cement kind of like how everything just like figures itself out, right?
Yeah, yeah, it's that practice and experience and working with other people, and I guess working with that crew, you felt pretty comfortable that you could try things out, or if you made a mistake or weren't happy with something, I imagine they were giving you positive feedback and good advice on how to improve.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And then, of course, off the mic, they'll be like, "What the hell are you doing?" Kind of like ground myself after too.
Yeah. Were you getting good advice from Bruce or John or anybody else who was sort of in upper level management, or is it primarily your peers on the morning show or the music shows?
So at first, it was my peers until I started going into ABEB, Administrative Board and Executive Board.
Hmm.
Um, what really helped me like shape like I would say like facing adversity is Andy Gladding, who is the tech director for the station.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Through him, and I think you've heard from Shane that they developed Tech Thursdays,
Mm-hmm.
and we learned a whole bunch of like radio equipment, how to use it, how to fix it, how to install it, how it's being used. And Andy was he was a very good mentor to me because he's the one that got me my first internship. Um, Non-engineering at all. I He got me an internship at WABC in the city, and that's where that kind of like lamented like my career going forward. But
Hmm.
professionally, talking to Bruce Avery and John Mullen, Bruce Avery likes to find the minutiae in people, right?
Hmm.
So when I was in EB doing the interviews, looking for new people to join the station, he would have me think outside the box and kind of like develop those like personality questions too. And then John Mullen being John Mullen, it's all about the money. You got to do this, this, and this, da, 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 and that also helped formed me as a person too.
Yeah, well, those are three amazing people to get advice from, and they all love radio, and not always necessarily for the same reasons, but I think you get a sense from Bruce, from John, from Andy, especially like this is so much fun. Like radio can be so fun and so exciting. I don't know necessarily of a bigger cheerleader for the medium of radio than Andy Gladding, and I wonder if working with those guys as well as making friends like Max, did that, sort of encourage you and push you towards changing your major, which you said you considered, but then sticking with it? Was it that sense of fun and adventure, or what was it that really drew you in?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It was doing the radio, like making all these rundowns, singing of show and the topics and what to play on the air. Cleaning songs because I was a music producer. I had to clean songs before we put on air too. A lot of that was fun for me, and I was really seriously considering switching it up for a little bit. And I had a compromise with my parents. I actually became RTVF, radio, television, and film minor for like one semester.
Hmm.
Um, and that semester, I kind of just showed off my radio skills, but then eventually I dropped it to keep my engineering degree more seriously. But I still stuck with the radio because I was still in it until 2022. So
Yeah, yeah. I find it really interesting, and I hope you don't mind talking about this. Some people that I've spoken to, especially in recent generations, they said, I came in to be a sports guy and call basketball games, or I wanted to be a news reporter, or I wanted to do, you know, this kind of music show. And folks are very focused on those, which is wonderful that you can do that. But you were trying so many different things, and I wonder, if you don't mind talking about the process of doing that. Was it just sort of like, hey, there's all these possibilities, I want to try them all? Or were people sort of pulling you in different directions and saying, oh, you're good at this, you should try that? What was your experience in doing all these different things?
yeah, I had no idea what I was doing.
Mm,
Everyone does a music show at first, which I did. And then one of my big inspirations was Ebro in the Morning on Hot 97. So I wanted to kind of mirror what they did on their morning show into our morning show. So there was that. But it was kind of just a mix of everything, just you don't know what you want to do, so you try a little bit of everything. You take a little bit from each pot. And
mm,
then somehow, some way, like I said before, I ended up on EB as the program director of music, um, which is I don't know how that happened, how they chose me, but yeah, that happened.
mm.
Um, yeah,
Did well, let me ask you this, why did you apply for that position of music director? What appealed to you about it?
so I actually applied for program director of talk
Oh, okay.
because I wanted to make my own shows and figure out more of like the behind the scenes administrative stuff of like doing a radio station. So after I did the interview with Eli Finkelstein, the the four of them on the EV board and then Bruce and John, they came together and said, Ed is a very great candidate and we want him on EB, but program director of talk doesn't exactly fit his profile. So they gave me program director of music, which I also enjoyed because I was having fun like cleaning songs, playing songs on the radio, doing music breaks, talk breaks, and all that stuff too. So that was actually a good fit that they did for me.
Oh, nice. Yeah, that is a nice thing when you have people, like John and Bruce, who can see potential in you, and you might have something in mind, but they say, "Try this. I think you'll be good at that." And that's a wonderful system of mentors to have. Just thinking about timeline wise, you said you started summer of 2017 and you finished up in 2022. So right in the middle of your academic experience at Hofstra, uh, everybody went into lockdown with the COVID outbreak, and I wonder if you don't mind talking about like that spring of 2020, almost 5 years ago now, as we record this. What were you thinking? What were people saying at the station as the seriousness of the situation became apparent?
Yeah. I'm gonna back up a little bit to
Oh,
spring of 2020. I was part of the pep band, and we got the call that school was shutting down, COVID had happened during the CIA championship. So right when Hofstra wins, the night after, congratulations, you guys won. You're coming back to an empty campus. Um, so we transitioned online for almost everything. Um, I paid for my own license of Adobe Audition to record tracks for the morning show,
hmm.
and to do my music shows at the time too. But we were doing things other than doing radio, like Hofstra Votes Live. I became a part of that too.
Hmm. Yeah, I guess I'm thinking sort of about that, like that shock that you said you come back from this band competition and everything's shutting down. And I'm guessing you were a commuter student, and how did that affect your interactions with the station generally, and then as things were going into lockdown, were you able to how were you able to keep communicating with people at the station and management, and what was going on there?
Yeah. Actually, you know what? I do remember one occasion for the morning show. It was me, Max, Rachel Lucier, and then first name Celeste, I forgot what her last name was, but we decided to record our own morning show and put it in as a tape, requesting to pre-record our shows and then play it the next day in the morning. And we kind of developed a close kinship with the four of us doing that. Um, but yeah, transitioning remote is just we have Adobe Audition, we had Zoom, we had phone calls, we could record calls if you're doing any interviews. We looked over the internet for any news stories and just copy wrote those down into our show. Um, there wasn't there wasn't a lot of access to the station at the time, but
Yeah.
we knew through the EB that if we talk to the right people, we can get our stuff uploaded and played.
Hmm.
And that dedication that we did kind of helped cement me into one of the successful candidates for EB.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess if we could go a step further back, because one of the questions I usually ask is, when did you feel socially comfortable at the station? When did you realize that this was a group of people that you wanted to spend a lot of time with? And I guess my addition to that question is, when did you feel comfortable socially, and how did that help you when, like I said, we went into lockdown and everybody was working remotely? How did your relationships pre-COVID help you get through the COVID times?
Yeah, I mean, pre-COVID, I was still like dancing on different types of stuff at the station, and it was during COVID that cemented what shows I actually wanted to focus on, which
Hmm.
was Hip Hop Basement and the Morning Wake Up Call. My co-host for the Morning Wake Up Call, Max, Rachel, Celeste, we formed a bond and we made these shows back to back, and then we uh we also had to connect. I had to connect with the other shows at the time because I became the tech director during COVID too.
Oh, wow.
So I had to I me and Shayna figured out a system where we we would record everyone else's shows and then we would edit the shows and then we would Shayna or and I would upload it to Zeta for them to play at that time. And talking with other people and like that became the step where I expanded like my network and who does what shows and what other people have interest in and yada yada yada.
Wow. Wow. What an amazing time to live and work through. And I could ask you a million more questions, and maybe we'll do that someday. But I want to come back to getting started at the station. And I think you kind of answered this already, but I like to ask it to sort of come full circle with the discussion. When you first showed up and did that interview or started the class, what did you think Hofstra Radio would mean to you, and what did it become?
Yeah. I did not know what it would mean to me. I thought it would just be another club that I'd be a part of, and then that kind of exploded from there. Um, yeah. Um, I it I don't want to say it was a mix of emotions, but I definitely was not ready for what RHU had in store for me.
In a good way, I'm sure.
Yeah, of course, yeah, in a good way, yes.
Yeah, it sounded like you were quite a busy undergrad. That you had the mechanical engineering major, and the band and the radio station. It sounds like you were doing other things. When did you find time to rest, or was it just you're busy all the time?
Oh man, I was busy all the time. If I wasn't at the station, which I spent half the day in the station doing my work, I was either um, in in the common area working on homework, or I was in the back then it was called the Ratskeller, but now it's the Pride Den. I'd be there, see the station, the Pride Den, or I'd be in the library until security would kick me out.
Right.
But I kind of had like a routine where I would go to this place first, that place first, and then that place next.
Well, it sounds like you found an unexpected home at Hofstra Radio, and it sounds like you definitely made the most of your time there. It's so many amazing jobs and the experience. And if you don't mind, maybe someday we'll have another conversation. I can ask you a bunch more questions.
Yes, absolutely. I'd love to.
This was so much fun, Edward. Thank you so much for taking the time, and we'll definitely talk again. Thank you.
Thank you.